Hey book nerds, welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to film my October wrap-up. I read 6 books in October, which isn't a lot for me, but one of them was about 800 pages long, so I think it might even out. And yeah, I'll just go through the books. I've only got one of them as a physical copy, and the rest were ebooks. So the first book I read was Ragdoll by Daniel Cole. This was a thriller. It's about a guy who was a detective and he went to the trial of a serial killer he was trying to put away, and the serial killer got off from the trial, so the detective brutally attacked him and started beating him in the court, and then got fired as a detective. But then it turned out the guy who he was trying to put away did actually kill all the people, and he got later caught because he killed another person. So then the guy gets reinstated onto the force, and this is his first case. And it's about they find a body that is made up from 5 other bodies, and all of the bodies have they have to work through the book and identify who the bodies are, but the detective thinks that they're all linked to him in some way and that it's like a personal crime. Yeah, so that was my first read of October. It was suitably dark. I think I gave it about a 3 out of 5. It was an alright thriller. It wasn't great. It's more a police procedural than a straight up thriller, and the ending got a bit weird. It was not the most satisfying of plots, but it was still good. It had good characterization, and there's another one in the series which I will be reading at some point, so it wasn't bad enough to put me off that. So the next book I read in October was Toil and Trouble, which is an anthology of witchcraft stories. I really enjoyed this book. It was perfect for October, got me in the Halloween mood. And yeah, most of the stories were really good. There was a couple, as per usual with anthologies, there was a couple I didn't like, but most of them I liked a lot. I think overall I gave it about a 3.5 out of 5, which doesn't sound that high. It's not the best anthology I've ever read. Unfortunately, some stories did let it down. But I loved the theme of it, and I liked that a lot of the stories were queer. I wasn't expecting that, so that was good. And it was good representation as well. So that was nice. That was a good surprise. Yeah, so the third book I read in October was Needful Things by Stephen King. I love Stephen King. Obviously, I love Stephen King. I haven't read this one before. This was my almost 800 page book, and yeah, it was a solid 4 out of 5. It is it has the same problem as most Stephen King books that I find, which is that they are too long. They don't exactly drag, but they could have been edited down. It is very Stephen King-esque in terms of its tone. It's probably not the best one to read for the first time if you've never read any Stephen King before, but Needful Things is about a small town, and this shopkeeper comes and opens up a new shop in the town, and the shop has everything that anyone in the town could possibly want, and they pay for it with tricks that they play on other people in the town, and these tricks seem harmless, but they're really not, and they cause a lot of problems, and it just escalates and gets bigger and bigger until you have people murdering each other and stuff like that. It was really good. It was one of the darker Stephen King books, and that's saying something, but there's a few things, I won't spoil anything, there's a few things I wasn't exactly expecting them to cover, and as it had a really good ending. I did like the ending. I was kind of lagging a bit towards the end of the book, but one of the good things is it's one of the ones you're not sure how it's going to end, so it was nice that it did have a satisfying ending. And yeah, I really liked it, and it put me in the mood for my 4th book of the month, which I wasn't actually intending to read this month, and it's The Long Walk by Stephen King. This is a novella. It's only about 200 pages. and I've already read it once this year. I read it for the first time in April, I think it was, and I really liked it. But the first time I read it, I only gave it about a 3 out of 5, I think it was, and now I've had to bump it up to about 4.5 out of 5, just because it's only been a few months and I wanted to read it again. It's about set in a future world. You don't really get any details about the future world, but a bunch of boys sign up to do the long walk, and what this is, it's a competition, and you just have to walk longer than anyone else. If you stop walking, you get 3 warnings and then you get shot. No matter what, you can't stop for anything, and yeah, you basically just win by surviving, and if you survive to the end, you get anything you want. You can request anything in the world. And I really like this book. It's very character driven, which is probably why I like it so much, and it's very bleak. It's intense. It's an intense read, which is good. Why it's good that it's short, because it kind of fuels that intensity. And it's just, yeah, like I said, the first time I read it, I only gave it 3 stars, but reading it again, it's stuck with me, and I know it's going to be something that I do reread quite a lot. And I think it might be one of my favourite Stephen King books, actually, mainly because of its shortness, its simplicity, and yeah, it's just a tough read, but a good one. Yeah, so that was that book. The next one I read, I actually have a physical copy of, and it is The Creeper Man by Dawn Kurtagich. This is actually called And Then the Trees Crept In America. I'm British, so I've got the British version here. This was so disappointing. Yeah, I really didn't like this book. I gave it 2 out of 5, but I might bump it down even more, to be honest. It's just, yeah, part of it was I was expecting great things because the cover is great, the back is really scary. It's just got this little poem on the back, and that's all it tells you about the book, which is, "There's a man in the trees, a man with no eyes, but still he watches, that's the surprise. Stay away from the woods, it couldn't be clearer, but the trees are creeping, nearer and nearer, beware the creeper man." And the problem with this book is it's kind of magical realism horror, which isn't a problem in itself, but it's written in a very dreamy style, and it's very confusing, and I generally dislike books like that. I switch off because I can't connect to the characters in books like that, and they don't seem like real people because it's all just random prose and odd disjointed moments, and that's a stylistic thing. So some people might really like this book. The ending did help a little bit, but I don't think it was enough to make me enjoy the rest of the book that I'd already spent all this time reading and not enjoying. And it's also disappointing. I can see why the American one is called And Then the Trees Crept In, because the Creeper Man isn't actually really part of the story at all. That's not a spoiler, it's just he's kind of mentioned occasionally, and that's it. The trees are really the thing that's the scary part, or is meant to be, among other things. And yeah, I couldn't really connect to any of the characters in this, and I didn't find it scary because of that. It's just kind of weird, and yeah, it was just disappointing. The final book that I finished for this month is Say Her Name by James Dawson. This I was reading as part of Witchathon. It's a young adult horror book, and it's about Bloody Mary. So the plot is some girls they go to a boarding school, and they do the Bloody Mary thing, which, if you don't know, is you turn off all the lights, you have a candle, you say Bloody Mary into the mirror 5 times, and Bloody Mary will appear, and she's meant to kill you. In some versions she like shows you your future husband, but usually she kills you. And so the girls do this, but unfortunately for them, they do it in the one place where the legend is real. and they get a warning and they have 5 days to save themselves before Bloody Mary will come and kill them. This was a really good Halloween read. It's not the best book, I think I gave it 3.5 out of 5, but it was really enjoyable, very consistent in consistently good narration. Characters are fairly interesting. They're not the most developed people ever, but they're standard young adult protagonists. And it gets very creepy actually at some points. It's not quite, it doesn't scare me. I can see some people being very scared by this, and if I was a teenager reading it I would be very scared by it. It's got good moments, it's got a bit of a mystery element, the ending is satisfying. It's kind of like a standard horror movie in a book format, which is perfect for Halloween, and I would recommend it, definitely. There's one thing though, so I was reading it in the bathtub, which is already kind of a problem because Bloody Mary comes out of mirrors and there's mirrors in my bathroom. And there's a scene where she comes out of a bath, and I started reading that scene while I was in the bath, and yeah, it took me a long time to work up the courage to actually get out of the water because I was so scared of standing up and seeing my mirror. But apart from that, it's not horrendously scary. It's just that if there's certain things that you find scary, you probably shouldn't read it when you're alone. Yeah, so that's my October wrap-up. Let me know how many books you read in October, and if you've read any of these ones, what you thought of them. And I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time.